Hello, everyone. I'm going to start my morning off with a little bit of, oh my, I drank soda and it's trying to rebel. I'm trying to be a real ladylike about that, releasing gas through the oral cavity.
Mhm.
That was ladylike, right? I said it very ladylike. Hi, I'm Winona, and by the way, I remember to introduce myself. So high five to me, and you get the dance, which actually looks good today. Because if you've seen the other ones over the last couple of weeks, it was like right punch, left punch, right punch, left punch. It was looking bad. That's what it looked like. But you know what happened this weekend? I went to the awards show in Illinois, and I danced hard on Friday with a bunch of folks. So I'm thinking my dance moves improved.
Mm.
It was osmosis. Anyway, I wrote books. Yeah, segue there. Perfect, right? There, and I thought divorce was bad, and I thought being grown up was easy. If only our Mia memoir and verse, Foreign Coffee, Widow's Web, and Widow's Debt. That is 6 books. And if you've been following us for a while, I love how I did the little dance across like it's a children's show. Uh, if you've been following us for a while, you know that we have 17 more books to go.
Wow.
If you want to go ahead and look those up, you can go at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, go down to the bottom of the page and you'll see I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all got confused. You probably were thinking that the show was wrapping up, right? Because I was doing the wrap up one right there. And I'm gonna leave you in suspense. Cliffhanger. You can hear the rest at the end of the interview. So since I've done my cliffhanger for the day, ooh, proud to me. I'm gonna go ahead and say that you're not here to hear about me, which is very sad to me because I even had the pink rose. So you guys can like actually have a conversation piece so I could talk about me. But you're here to hear about our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I certainly will. I don't know how I can introduce myself after your wonderful introduction, but my name is Victoria Christopher Murray, and I am the author of more than 30 novels. And I am a New York Times best-selling author as well as a USA Today best-selling author.
All right, I just love the fact that you done covered both at the same time or a different time. And I gotta ask the question that everyone's gonna want to know: how'd you do it?
Well, I mean, I did it by selling books. You know what I mean? It is, you only make those lists through selling books. There's nothing that I know on how to do it. I know the biggest thing is having the distribution. You have to have distribution in the stores. Because as I said, I've written over 30 books, but my first book was self published. With what I know now, and not only just with my self-published books, with my books with mainstream publishers, there were most of the time I would have never been able to make the New York Times list because the first print run wasn't large enough. And so you have to have a print run where you're in most of the stores in the country in order to get the book sold.
Look at that. So we just learned that most of us ain't gonna make it. No, I'm joking.
Talking
So
about the
okay.
New York Times, the USA Today is a little bit easier because it's a straight, just the book scan sales, but still, it's still the same type of thing where people are selling and thousands of books in a week to make the New York Times.
Exactly. Exactly. We had done a show about that earlier between the difference between a New York Times bestseller and a USA Today bestseller. So thank you for clarifying it so much simpler because they're both a 15-minute explanation. So if
Yeah, yeah,
you want to know,
exactly.
you got to invest 30 minutes if you want to know and follow up. So there
Yeah,
we got to clarify it in like less than 30 seconds, y'all. That's a TikTok right there.
yeah, yeah. And and it's a good question because I didn't know how to make it until I made it. And even though you make it once, we have very little control as authors to making it. But the number one thing is the distribution. The distribution at all kinds of stores across the entire country.
So we now know our distribution channels have to get a little bigger. So we need to invest time and
Yeah.
interest. And to learn
Yeah,
the distribution channels, which is something I gotta say it's my weak point. It is a weak point. But I noticed that you said that not just your self-published books and not just your traditional books. So can you tell us a little bit about each journey, your self-published journey and then your
yeah.
traditional journey?
So my self-published journey began in 1997. So probably before some of the people who are listening were even born. But I self-published my first novel, not because I had been rejected by any publishers, but because I wanted to control my destiny as a writer. And think about this, in 1997, there was no, Amazon was just coming on and all it sold were books. But there was no Facebook, not even MySpace back in that day. There was no social media. There was AOL had something called Black Voices, but we didn't have very much social media. So you were really out there selling books out of the trunk of your car. And what I did, the reason I sold 9,000 copies in 6 months. And the reason I sold so many copies was without social media, without book distribution, although there were black book distributors then. There were two big ones out of New York. And so the black bookstores were really big back then too. But I turned most of my friends into salespeople. I gave them a case of books. I told them they could keep half the money. And so they went out and sold the books. I gave them a 50%. They came back with the money and then got more books. And so I did this across the country. And my friends were out there hand selling my books for me. And then I had a couple of friends who worked in beauty salons, and they were selling the books in the beauty salons, which is the perfect place to sell books. And so I was able to sell those books, get the attention of an agent, and then from there, that's when I got with a major publisher. My first publishing company it was called Time Warner at the time. It's now called Grand Central. Then I spent most of my career with Simon and Schuster, and now for my last three books, I've been at Random House. And so the journey is different because you don't have as much control, obviously, as you do when you're self-published. But that distribution and everything that I was talking about, it's much better through a mainstream publisher.
I love that. Okay. I love that because, the traditional art publisher already has their distribution set up. And I'm
That's right.
always, always, always intrigued to know about the self-publishing journey, especially when you're selling something like 9,000 books in 6 months.
Yeah.
Specifically because,
Without social media.
girl, shoo,
Without social media and with Amazon being such a tiny bit of it. Because they were just getting started. This was 1997. I started in October of 1997. And by March of 97, we had sold 9,000 copies.
all right. So this is the question I have to ask because I'm thoroughly curious. What did you do when you found out you hit the bestseller list?
So that's a really good question because my very first novel that was self published, I hit the Essence bestsellers list. I was on the Essence bestsellers list, and it was another one because I remember going to a book club and they said, "Did you know you were on the bestsellers list?" So there were two Black bestsellers lists. So I was probably way more excited with that because it was my first book. And then I was on the Essence bestsellers list with my first book for 9 consecutive months. So I was excited with that. But there's something that's very interesting that I've learned about myself. I am more of a success is a journey rather than destination person. And what I mean by that is I remember thinking, okay, when am I going to start feeling like an author? And so I thought, okay, I'll feel like an author the first time I walk into a bookstore and I see my books on the shelf. And I saw it, and that didn't help. And then I said, okay, I'm going to feel like an author the first time I see someone reading my book and I don't know them, a stranger reading my book. And I remember the day that happened, I was in the beauty salon, where I went, and the lady was reading Temptation, and I said, I wrote that book. And she looked at me like, really? Come on. And then she looked at the picture and saw it was me. And then that didn't make me feel very excited. And so I said, okay, well, what is going to make me? And then I said, being nominated for an NAACP Image Award, 5 of my books have been turned into movies. I keep thinking all of that's going to make me feel, like a real author, really big author. And nothing has. And I think that's just God's way of keeping you humble, keeping you working hard to get to, the destination. It's a journey. So each stop on the journey is cool, but I always feel like I'm not there yet.
Thank you. I love that. I love that because you know what? I think that we are taught so early that we have to have goals and then we achieve them and then they're like benchmarks and you're like done. And then I mean,
Yeah, I'm not done. I mean, because there's so
that
many
job
more
is
bigger
never
goals
done.
out there. Like you would think, okay, having your books turned into movies, that was pretty cool. But then what came after that was one of my novels, The Personal Librarian, has sold over 1 million copies. That's amazing. And so I just keep saying, okay, let me see what God has next, because it keeps getting bigger and better. And so I think I don't, and maybe I should take a moment to celebrate, but I don't spend a lot of time celebrating. I do bask in it. I do thank God for it when it happens. But then I'm already looking toward the next milestone that he has for me. So all of these stops on my journey are just markers for me. They're just markers.
You're in the marathon called life and you keep passing markers and being like, high five to that. Yeah.
Right to that. I made
Grab
it
your
there, right?
Gatorade and go.
That's right. Exactly. And I made it. I made it there. And
Exactly.
so it is such, I feel so blessed. I don't want anyone to think that I'm taking anything for granted. I am so blessed because if we were to stop right now and just write my resume of what God has allowed me to accomplish in this career, it's absolutely amazing. I just guess I understand that there are still more markers ahead, and I can't even identify them all. You know what I mean? I don't think I did have a marker that I would want to be a New York Times best-selling author way back. I did have a marker maybe that it would be nice to have a book turned into a movie, but who knew they were going to turn 5 into movies? So I know I'm blessed, and I do celebrate each one that God has given me, but it's like a thank you, Lord. Now let me move on.
So I have to ask an unusual question here.
Yes.
Did you get a set visit while your books were being turned into a movie?
Yes, I did. I didn't get to go for the first two. I wrote the Seven Deadly Sins that are now on Lifetime. And so the first two, Lust and Envy, were done during COVID. And so they kept the set closed, and I didn't want to be there anyway, because that's when they were testing people every day for COVID to make, and I was like, oh, child, no, that was when the test, went all the way up to your brain through your nose.
During the
So
course of
I was like, oh no. So I wouldn't have wanted to be there anyway. But then the next three, Greed, Wrath, and Pride, were all filmed in Vancouver, Canada. And so I spent about maybe 5 days on Wrath, but I spent almost the whole 3 weeks on Greed, which was amazing because the cast was amazing. Monique Coleman, Eric Benet. I mean, I got to spend so much time with those people. So it was great. It was great. So yes,
okay.
and then I went
So
up, and I did go up for Pride, but I think I only went for about 3 days. That was with Stephanie Mills. So I got to see her and be with her. So yes.
okay. So that was the normal part of the question. The
Okay.
odd part. What was craft services like?
I wasn't starving, wasn't starving. And you know what's so good about that's actually not a bad question. Let me tell you why that's not a bad question. I I would not want to be on that movie set any longer than I was, because you get out there at 8 o'clock in the morning and you don't go leave till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And so it's every meal and it's every snack, and you start out in the morning, and then we were in Vancouver, where some of the and we and the, my movies were always shot in January, and it was freezing beyond measure. And I remember some of the scenes, actors are so, we look at them and think it's all glamorous. Man, it was 12 degrees out there and they had to pretend that it wasn't. And they're standing out there in shirt sleeves and I'm bundled up in a coat saying, get me out of here. So those are long, long days. And I give a lot of credit to what they did. So that's a good question about craft services, because if the food ain't good, you're stuck. You
Oh my
don't
God.
get to go to the, stop and go to the restaurant because they want to keep filming.
You can't lose the light.
And you
You
can't lose
can't
the
lose
light.
the moment. You can't lose the momentum.
And the
And if
sun
someone,
has to be in a certain way, and time is money. People always say that, but on a film set, time is money.
someone broke it down like on multi-billion dollar sets, it can come out to about $25,000 per second.
Yeah, so
So
it's
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 not
a
like, and I think about it, I was like, how much pressure is that to get it right the
to
first
get
time?
it right. Yeah,
And you
yeah,
think about all those rewrites that people do, and they still
yeah.
have
And there's
can't
rewrites
get out
done
there.
on, the
On
set.
set. Yep, and you're like, all right, I got this. I'm always like, no, how do you have it? Y'all are amazing.
Yeah. And one of the things I didn't know, you can't even get it right on the first shot, because even if you do get it right, they shoot it from like 3 different angles. So you're doing the same scene over and over and over again until you're just sitting out there looking at the monitor, just saying, shoot me now. I just can't watch it anymore. So
You never know which one is gonna look the best in the end
yeah,
product.
and that's up to the editor. So you have to give them as much as they can do.
Exactly. Oh my God. Oh, the editors, by the way, bless y'all. Y'all have a great job. That
Yes,
oh, if you can afford a video editor, yeah, oh God, that's a horrible job. Anyway,
exactly.
let's get back to you in the books. First of all, I asked the question about craft services because it's on my bucket list. So
Good.
I want to go eat craft services. So I'm always interested to know who has the best craft services. So I'm assuming Lifetime has a good crafty. If you were willing to stay on set and it was 12
Yeah,
degrees.
yeah, yeah. Lifetime did wonderful with every single part of this process for me.
Okay. Now, what do you have what are you thinking about next? Like expand actually no, before I even ask that question, I'm sorry, there was a question that I wanted to ask after that. You said that you were on the Essence bestseller list. Which
Yeah.
means you also got to go to the Essence Festival?
Oh, I used to go to the
Oh,
Essence
what?
Festival. I used to sign at the Essence Festival. Probably I did maybe 12, 15 years in a row, but I'll be there this year. I'll be there again
Yeah.
this year. Yeah.
So what is it like?
It's
It's
so
like
I've only been to a show once, because after working all day, the last thing I want to do is go out and be in a crowd. But it's a regular book signing, and when I used to go every single year, what was great about that is that people would come to the authors section every year to look for me. So if I didn't hit their city during my tour, they knew they could always find me at the Essence Festival.
that is amazing. Oh, I would kill for a following like that. Only in my books, though. Only in my
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So now we have to ask the normal questions that I'll go about with actual like the writing craft, which is how do you come up with your stories, ideas, and keep them fresh and new?
So I always tell people that this is a whole gift that I've been given. You know what I mean? And so I think a gift, um, God would always give it to you completely. Do you know what I mean? So not only has God given me the gift to write, but he's given me the gift to have the discipline, the gift for the ideas, everything. So to be inspired, everything comes with the gift. He would never give you a gift incompletely.
Ah.
So I don't have to do a lot. I have the work I have to do is sit down and write and do it and be obedient to the gift. But God gives me the inspiration. God gives me the book ideas. God brings it all to me, and it's just my job to do it. So it's not like I have to go search for the inspiration. I think it's already in me.
Now, this should be my 7th question and last question, but if you don't mind, could I get 8?
Uh-huh. Can you get
Okay.
what?
Can I get an 8th question if you don't mind?
Yes.
All right. Because I promised all my guests, I was like, 7 max. And then you said God gives you the gift complete. Does that include the wardrobe? And then what did he inspire you to wear it for the Image Awards, the Essence Festival, and on book tour?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't even. I've been on book tour. This is my first week home since February 2nd, since Harlem Rhapsody came out. Um, I can't tell you what I wear on book tour. I can't tell you. I wear clothes. I Yeah, I wear clothes. When you're going to 25 cities, it's I don't, and that's not the most important thing to me. Do you know what I mean? The most important thing to me is being able to get out and meet people and sign the book. So I just know that if I'm going to be in 10 cities until I come home and have a chance to change my suitcase, I take 10 pair of pants, 10 tops, and I don't make a big deal of it. I don't.
But what did you wear to the Image Awards? That's really what I wanted to know.
Okay, so that was in 2015. I've been nominated 5 times. So the first, I don't remember what I wore the first time. My husband and my mom and dad went with me, and my best friend and her husband. I don't remember. Um, then the second time I don't remember at all what I wore the second time. Like nothing. I do remember what I wore the time that I won because a designer asked me if he could, and I did a high-low skirt. So I love that. But I couldn't tell you what I wore any other time to the Image Awards. And I think I've been nominated 5 times, and I think I've gone 3 times.
Okay. Now, the 8th question is that normal one. What do you have planned next? And where can people find more information about you? And more importantly, buy those books, y'all. Buy the books.
Yeah, so my latest novel, Harlem Rhapsody, is the one that I'm on tour for now. And what I'm working on next is it'll be my 4th historical fiction novel. We don't have a title yet, even though the book is finished and we're deep in our edits. But we don't have a title, but we're working on it. We're working on it. And people can find me anywhere. If you Google Victoria Christopher Murray, I am on Facebook by Victoria Christopher Murray. I am on Instagram, Victoria Christopher Murray. Everywhere, Victoria Christopher Murray. So that's how people can find me. And my website is victoriachristophermurray.com. And so people can go there and not only sign up for my mailing list, but they can go there and read the first chapter of every book I've ever written.
All right, so I'm going to admit I read the first chapter of Harlem Rhapsody and was like, "Can I please contact and interview her? She's amazing."
Thank you. That's one of my favorite first chapters. If I had any advice for writers,
Yes,
I would
please.
I would say spend time. The only time I think about my audience is when I'm writing the first chapter. And after that, I go ahead and tell the story. But it's in that first chapter where I know some people will just read it and then just say, like what you did. So thank you. Because I have to capture you. But if you try to think about the reader every single page from that point forward, you'll be thinking about a reader that said this, a reader that said that, a reader that said this, and it'll drive you nuts. Drive you nuts.
Really, really.
Yeah. So Think about what the reader will see that first time, and then after that, just go write your story.
Thank you so much for being here. It feels like almost having royalty between you,
Oh
Deborah
my
Bell,
goodness.
and Brenda Jackson, and Rochelle, I think it was Martin. I feel like I have just been like, ah, been in the royal court. Oh,
Oh, that's so
completed the royal
cool.
court, y'all.
That again, that is so cool. That is so cool.
I'm sure, like, after you, they'll shut the door behind me and lock it real good to make sure no one else sneaks in. But I'm happy to be here.
Well, no, and I think I love what you're doing, so thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I'm going to wrap it up over here on my end. My name is Wilnona. I'm one of the And I Thought ladies. You can find everything that your ladies are doing on www.andithoughladies.com. Let me bookend this for you. Remember I said we're going to have a cliffhanger, not cliffhanger. And yeah, I'm leaving that one in too, so you can laugh at me as well. This is what happens at the bottom of the page. Cliffhanger solved. There are the three charities that we proudly support. We want to ask that you please go ahead and support them as well. That does not have to be money. You can do that by just giving them some advice. Sometimes they need expertise. Or you can actually get your hands dirty and go build some houses in Ethiopia for the orphans if you'd like. But if you don't want to do any of that, you could do the money part. We thank you in advance for that. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.